My name is Dora, and at 72, I never thought my golden years would turn into a nightmare. After teaching elementary school for 40 years, I expected peace and retirement. But when I moved in with my son Thomas and his wife Amanda, everything changed. Last night, I heard whispers outside my bedroom door that froze my blood. Amanda's voice was clear. Tomorrow, we'll lock her away for good. My son agreed. With trembling hands, I packed a small bag in the darkness. I never imagined fleeing from my own family. Before we continue this journey together, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe to support my story. Now, let me take you back to how it all began. 3 years ago, my beloved husband Frank passed away after battling pancreatic cancer. For 48 years, we built our lives together in our cozy three-bedroom house in Portland. The silence after his funeral was deafening. Every corner held memories that both comforted and tormented me. After months of rattling around in our family home alone, I began considering my options. My son Thomas called regularly during this time. During one Sunday call, he suggested something that would change everything. "Mom, why don't you sell the house and come live with us in Seattle? We have plenty of space and the kids would love having their grandmother around." At first, I hesitated. I didn't want to burden my son's family or intrude on their lives. Thomas was a successful financial advisor with a beautiful family, his wife Amanda, a real estate agent, and my two grandchildren Lily, 12 and Jack 9. They lived in a sprawling five-bedroom house in an upscale Seattle suburb. "I don't know, Thomas. You have your own lives. I can manage on my own." "Mom, please. After everything you've done for me, let me do this for you. Plus, Amanda agrees it would be wonderful to have you with us." After several more conversations and a visit from Thomas, I relented. I sold our home, putting most of the money into savings and investments for my future needs. Thomas helped me sort through decades of memories, deciding what to keep and what to let go. By spring, I was packed and ready for my new life. The day I arrived in Seattle, my grandchildren ran down the driveway to greet me with homemade welcome signs. Amanda stood on the porch smiling warmly. Thomas carried my suitcases to a beautiful guest room on the main floor. "We thought you'd be more comfortable not having to deal with stairs," Amanda explained, showing me the ensuite bathroom and walk-in closet. "And you'll be right across from the family room so you won't feel isolated." Those first few weeks were lovely. I helped pack lunches for the children, attended their school events, and prepared dinner most evenings before Amanda returned from showing houses. Thomas seemed delighted to come home to family meals again, often commenting on how he missed my cooking. "This reminds me of when I was growing up," he'd say, serving himself seconds of my pot roast or apple pie. But around the 2-month mark, I noticed subtle changes in Amanda's behavior. What started as small sighs when I suggested a different way to organize the pantry evolved into tight-lipped smiles when I mentioned recipes the children might enjoy. One evening, I heard Jack crying upstairs. When I went to check on him, I found him struggling with math homework while Amanda was on a work call. "Here, let me help you," I offered, sitting beside him. We worked through several problems together until Amanda appeared in the doorway. Her phone call finished. "Jack, you need to learn to do this yourself," she said, firmly dismissing my help. "Mother Dora, I appreciate your concern, but we have a system for homework in this house." That night marked the first time I heard her use Mother Dora instead of my name, creating an immediate distance between us. Thomas noticed nothing, absorbed in his work and grateful for the peaceful home I helped maintain. As weeks turned into months, my bedroom began feeling less like a sanctuary and more like a place I was expected to remain. Amanda would knock briefly before entering, checking on me with a thin veneer of concern that never reached her eyes. The walk-in closet gradually filled with holiday decorations and old sports equipment, shrinking my personal space. I tried harder to fit in without disrupting their lives. I kept my opinions to myself, helped only when explicitly asked, and spent more time in my room reading to avoid potential conflict. But even these efforts weren't enough to stem the growing tension in the house. By my 6th month in Seattle, Amanda had established clear boundaries around my interactions with Lily and Jack. She began forgetting to tell me about school performances until after they occurred. When I mentioned attending Jack's soccer game after seeing it on the family calendar, she quickly explained, "Oh, we thought it would be too cold for you to sit outside that long. We're just looking out for your health." Thomas started working later, often not returning until after the children were in bed. When he was home, the strained atmosphere was palpable, though he seemed determined not to notice. One afternoon, while everyone was out, I noticed my jewelry box had been rearranged. Several pieces Frank had given me were missing, including the anniversary diamond earrings he'd saved for years to buy me. When I mentioned it to Thomas that evening, Amanda overheard. "I put some of your valuable pieces in our safe," she explained smoothly. "There have been break-ins in the neighborhood, and I'd hate for you to lose sentimental items." That made sense, but why hadn't she asked or told me when I requested to see them occasionally? She always had a reason to postpone showing me. "The batteries in the keypad are dead," or "Thomas has the combination and he's not home." The situation escalated when Amanda suggested selling some of Frank's belongings I'd brought with me. "That antique desk takes up so much space in the garage, and honestly, Dora, when will you ever use it again? We could sell it and put the money toward a cruise for you next summer." I refused firmly. "That desk was Frank's grandfather's. I'm keeping it for Jack when he's older." Amanda's expression hardened momentarily before smoothing into a concerned smile. "I just worry that you're holding on to the past too tightly. It's not healthy." Thomas, walking in midway through this conversation, sided with his wife. "Mom, Amanda's just trying to help. Maybe letting go of some things would be good for you." It was the first time he'd openly chosen her perspective over mine, and it stung deeply. That pattern continued and accelerated. When conflicts arose, Thomas increasingly backed Amanda, often with a helpless glance at me that silently pleaded for me to just go along with things. Most disturbing were the issues with my medication. I'd always been methodical about my health, using a weekly pill organizer for my blood pressure medication, thyroid supplement, and daily vitamin. Yet increasingly, I'd find pills missing from certain days or extra pills in others. When I mentioned this to Amanda, who had offered to help manage my medications, she looked concerned. "Dora, this is exactly what I've been worried about. You're getting confused about your medications. Maybe we should have the doctor adjust your dosage." I wasn't confused. I knew exactly how many pills I took and when. But Thomas and Amanda exchanged knowing looks that made me doubt myself. Was I becoming forgetful? As weeks passed, I felt increasingly disoriented and fatigued. Simple tasks required more concentration. My hands trembled slightly, and afternoon naps became necessary rather than occasional. During family dinners, I sometimes lost track of conversations, earning more concerned glances between my son and daughter-in-law. "Maybe we should have Dr. Lewis evaluate Mom again," Thomas suggested one evening after I'd struggled to recall the name of my former principal. "She seems more confused lately." What they didn't know was that I'd begun to wonder if something more sinister was happening. My isolation grew as Amanda began screening my phone calls. "Mrs. Johnson called while you were napping, but it wasn't important," she'd report casually. My old friends gradually stopped calling. The computer in the family room broke the day after I'd emailed my friend Patricia about my concerns. "We'll get it fixed soon," Thomas promised, but weeks passed with no repair. My growing weakness and mental fog became my prison. I began to wonder if I was indeed losing my grip on reality. The turning point came unexpectedly. One afternoon, while everyone was out, I was searching for my reading glasses and checked Amanda's bedside drawer, thinking she might have placed them there while cleaning. Instead, I found a small container with pills identical to my medication, but clearly not belonging to Amanda, who took no regular prescriptions. With shaking hands, I examined them closer. They matched my blood pressure pills, but included others I didn't recognize. Suddenly, the fog in my mind cleared enough to form a terrifying question. Was Amanda drugging me? That night, I pretended to swallow the pills she brought with my evening tea, but slipped them under my tongue and later flushed them down the toilet. I did the same the next morning and the next evening. Within 3 days, my head began to clear. The trembling in my hands subsided, my energy slowly returned. I started secretly documenting everything in a journal I kept hidden between my mattress and box spring, recording dates, times, and details of strange occurrences. After a week of avoiding whatever Amanda was giving me, I felt clear-headed enough to investigate further. While Thomas and Amanda were at a neighborhood barbecue with the children, I searched Amanda's closet thoroughly and discovered a small locked box on the top shelf. Using a hairpin, I managed to trip the simple lock. Inside, I found several pill bottles with my name on them. But for medications I'd never been prescribed, mild sedatives and medications typically used for early dementia. A cold realization washed over me. Amanda was deliberately medicating me to make me appear confused and incompetent. But why? The answer came 2 days later when I overheard a heated conversation between Thomas and Amanda in their bedroom. Not intentionally eavesdropping, I was walking past when Amanda's sharp tone caught my attention. Thomas, your mother has nearly $800,000 from selling her house and Frank's life insurance. That money should be working for us, not sitting in conservative investments. It's her money, Amanda. She needs it for her future care. Future care, she's living with us now. We're providing her care. And we have expenses too. Lily needs braces and Jack's private school tuition just increased. That beach house we've been dreaming about could be a reality. I can't just ask her to give us her money. You won't have to if we get power of attorney. She's clearly declining mentally. Even her doctor noticed it at her last appointment. My blood ran cold. The next day, while they were at work, I searched Thomas's home office and found paperwork for power of attorney, partially filled out, waiting only for signatures. There was also a brochure for Sunny Valley Memory Care, a local assisted living facility specializing in dementia patients. That evening, with my mind clearer than it had been in months, I confronted Thomas while Amanda was at a client dinner. Son, I need to talk to you about some things I found. I laid out the evidence, the hidden medications, the overheard conversation, the power of attorney paperwork. I expected shock, denial, perhaps even shame. Instead, Thomas looked at me with pity. Mom, this is exactly what we're concerned about. You're becoming paranoid and confused. You've been searching through our private things, making accusations. This isn't like you. Thomas, look at the evidence. Your wife is drugging me to make me seem incompetent, so you can take control of my money. He shook his head sadly. Mom, Amanda has been nothing but supportive. She's the one who researched those supplements to help with your memory. She's the one who schedules your doctor appointments and manages your medications when you forget. These delusions are why we're concerned. No matter what I said, Thomas twisted it into further evidence of my mental decline. When Amanda returned home, Thomas told her about our conversation. Her response was immediate and calculated. I think Dora needs professional help, Thomas. This paranoia could be dangerous to herself or even to the children. The next morning, they took me to see Dr. Lewis, a physician I'd only met twice before. Thomas and Amanda did most of the talking, describing my paranoid delusions and increasingly erratic behavior. When I tried to explain what was happening, Dr. Lewis gave me the same pitying look Thomas had. Dora, it's not uncommon for people your age to experience cognitive changes that can manifest as suspicion or paranoia. I think it might be time to consider a facility where you can receive appropriate care. I felt utterly betrayed and completely alone. No one believed me. Even my own son had chosen his wife's manipulation over the truth. That night, I lay in bed feeling more hopeless than I had since Frank died. Around 11:30, I heard Thomas and Amanda talking in the hallway outside my door. I quietly got out of bed and moved closer to listen. The facility can take her next week, Amanda whispered. They said we need to bring the power of attorney documents. I still don't feel right about this. Thomas replied, his voice uncertain. It's for her own safety, Amanda insisted. She's imagining things, searching through our belongings. Tomorrow, we'll lock her away for good, and she'll get the help she needs. I guess you're right. Thomas finally conceded. It's for her own good. My heart pounded so loudly, I feared they would hear it through the door. They were going to lock me away. Tomorrow. Based on lies and manipulation. I had only hours to escape. As soon as the house fell silent, I began enacting my desperate plan. I'd pretended to take my evening medication, but had hidden the pills under my tongue. Clear-headed and terrified, I waited until the digital clock beside my bed read 1:15 a.m. before silently sliding out from under the covers. Moving carefully in the darkness, I pulled out the small duffel bag I'd hidden in the back of my closet. 2 days earlier, after overhearing Amanda discussing the memory care facility. Inside, I'd already packed a change of clothes, basic toiletries, and the emergency cash I'd kept hidden inside an old photo album. $300 that Amanda hadn't found and appropriated. My hands trembled as I added the few remaining essentials, my real identification and Medicare card that I'd kept in a locked jewelry box, a photo of Frank, and the small journal documenting everything that had happened. Each movement was measured and silent. My heart thundering in my chest with such force, I feared it might wake the household. The hardest part was writing notes to my grandchildren. Tears blurred my vision as I explained in simple terms that Grandma needed to go away for a while, but that I loved them very much. I sealed these in envelopes and tucked them into my pillowcase, where they would find them tomorrow. Leaving behind most of Frank's mementos was like abandoning him a second time. I could only take our wedding rings on the chain around my neck and a small framed photo. Everything else, the quilt we'd received as a wedding gift, his favorite books, the collection of seashells from our 40th anniversary trip to Florida, would remain behind. Dressed in layers with my most comfortable walking shoes, I eased my bedroom door open inch by inch, cringing at the faint squeak from the hinges. The hallway stretched before me like a gauntlet, each floorboard a potential betrayer. I knew from months of observation which spots creaked and avoided them carefully. Just as I reached the kitchen, I heard footsteps upstairs. Thomas heading to the bathroom. I froze, ducking into the pantry as his heavy tread descended the stairs. Through the sliver between the door and frame, I watched my son pour a glass of water, standing mere feet from my hiding place. If he opened the pantry door, all would be lost. After what felt like hours, but was merely minutes, Thomas trudged back upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close before emerging from my hiding place, legs trembling with adrenaline and fear. The deadbolt on the front door slid open with a click that sounded deafening in the silent house. I eased the door open just enough to slip through, then closed it silently behind me. The cool night air hit my face, carrying the scent of rain-washed pavement and freedom. Standing on the porch of my son's house, for what might be the last time disorientation washed over me. I'd only been driven around this neighborhood, never walked it alone, especially not at night. Which direction led to the main road? Where could I go at this hour, with no phone, limited cash, and no friends nearby? For a moment, panic nearly overwhelmed me. Then Frank's voice seemed to whisper in my mind. One step at a time, Dora girl. You've always been stronger than you think. I headed downhill, reasoning that would lead to the main thoroughfare. Every rustle in the bushes made me jump, expecting Thomas's car to appear at any moment. My arthritic knees protested as I walked farther than I had in months. The mild spring night gradually chilled, and I pulled my cardigan tighter around my shoulders. After walking for nearly an hour, pain shooting through my hips and fear clouding my thoughts, I finally reached a commercial street with a few businesses. Most were dark, but the neon sign of a diner glowed like a beacon. Jenny's All-Night Diner. Through the windows, I could see only a few customers. A young couple in one booth, a truck driver at the counter. Gathering my courage, I pushed open the door, the bell tinkling cheerfully, as if this were a normal outing rather than a desperate flight. The waitress looked up from wiping down a table, her name tag reading Judy. She was about 50 with kind eyes and silver streaked dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Sit wherever you like, honey, she called. Then, noticing my appearance, an elderly woman alone at 2:30 a.m. with a small bag and fear etched on her face, her expression shifted to concern. Are you all right, ma'am? She asked, approaching my booth after I'd settled in. Something in her genuine concern broke through my carefully maintained composure. To my horror, my eyes filled with tears. I don't know. I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I needed to get away from a bad situation. Judy's eyes softened further, but thankfully, she didn't press. Let me get you some hot tea. On the house. You look like you could use it. When she returned with the steaming cup, she set it down and slid into the seat across from me. I'm on break for 15 minutes. I'm Judy. Dora, I replied, warming my hands on the mug. Dora, I don't want to pry, but if you're in danger, I can call the police. I shook my head quickly. No police. They wouldn't believe me anyway. It's complicated. Judy nodded, seeming to understand more than I'd said. Family situation. My surprise must have shown because she smiled sadly. I've seen that look before. My sister had it when she finally left her husband after 30 years. Over that cup of tea, in a vinyl booth, under fluorescent lights, Judy became the first person to truly listen to me in months. I didn't tell her everything, but enough that she understood the urgency of my situation. You need a safe place tonight, she stated matter-of-factly when I finished. And I think I know just the place. The women's shelter, Judy called, didn't typically serve elderly women fleeing family situations, but the night manager made an exception when Judy explained my circumstances. Judy even drove me there in her aging Toyota after her shift ended at 6 a.m. New Beginnings Women's Center was located in a converted Victorian house with security cameras and coded entry. When we arrived, I hesitated before getting out of the car. I never thought I'd end up in a place like this. I admitted, shame washing over me. At my age, running from my own son, Judy reached over and squeezed my hand. Dora, there's no age limit on needing help, and there's no shame in getting yourself to safety. Maria, the shelter director, who'd agreed to meet us despite the early hour, was a formidable woman in her early 60s with short grey hair and the efficient movements of someone who had seen every type of crisis and knew exactly how to respond. Elder abuse often goes unreported, she explained as she settled me in a small but clean private room, especially when it involves family members and financial exploitation. You're actually taking a brave step that many never manage. Learning that my situation wasn't uncommon provided little comfort, but did help diminish some of my shame. Maria connected me with a social worker who specialized in elder abuse cases and allowed me to use the shelter's phone to make a critical call. With trembling fingers, I dialed a number I knew by heart, but hadn't called in months. Hello? The familiar voice of my oldest friend, Patricia, answered, sounding groggy from being awakened at 7 a.m. Patricia, it's Dora. Dora, oh my goodness. I've been so worried. I've called and emailed, but never heard back. Thomas said you were having health problems and couldn't come to the phone. The tears I'd been holding back burst forth as I explained the bare minimum of my situation. Before I could even ask, Patricia interrupted. You're coming to stay with me, of course. No arguments. How soon can you get to Portland? The shelter helped arrange transportation. A volunteer would drive me the 3 hours to Portland the following day. Maria insisted I rest and meet with their legal advocate before leaving. Your son and daughter-in-law may file a missing person report, she warned. We need to ensure you're legally protected before you leave the state. That afternoon, I met with Susan, an elder law attorney, who volunteered at the shelter. Her expertise was a revelation. What you're describing, the medication tampering isolation attempts, to gain control of your finances. These are classic signs of elder abuse. Susan explained, "We need to document everything and take immediate steps to protect your assets." Using the shelter's computer, Susan helped me check my bank accounts. What we found confirmed my worst fears. Small but regular withdrawals had been made from my savings over the past 4 months, adding up to nearly $20,000. Thomas had access to help with bills. I explained feeling sick, but I never authorized these withdrawals. Susan helped me freeze my accounts immediately and file the paperwork for a protective order. By evening, I felt simultaneously exhausted and more empowered than I had in months. The next morning, shelter volunteer Debbie drove me to Portland, making conversation to distract me from my anxiety about being found. During that 3-hour drive, I constantly checked the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Thomas's car in pursuit. Patricia was waiting on her porch when we arrived, rushing down her front steps as soon as the car pulled up. At 74, my friend of 50 years still moved with the energy that had made her a formidable tennis partner in our younger days. "Dora Campbell, get over here," she demanded, pulling me into a fierce hug. I collapsed into her embrace, the safety of friendship, finally breaking the careful control I'd maintained since my escape. Inside Patricia's cozy bungalow, over cups of strong coffee and warm banana bread, I shared the full story. Patricia's expressions ranged from shock to rage to deep sadness. "I knew something was wrong," she said, hands clenching around her mug. "Thomas always had excuses for why you couldn't talk. I should have driven up there myself. You couldn't have known," I assured her, though part of me wished someone had seen through the deception sooner. For the first time in over a year, I slept deeply that night in Patricia's comfortable guest room, with the door firmly locked from the inside. The next week passed in a blur of appointments. A new primary care physician, who confirmed my suspicions about being over-medicated, meetings with a local elder law attorney who took my case pro bono, and visits to banks to secure my remaining assets. I regained physical strength quickly, once free from the mystery medications. Patricia's cooking and company proved to be the best medicine, along with gentle walks around her neighborhood that grew longer each day, just as I was beginning to feel secure. The moment I'd been dreading arrived. 10 days after my escape, Thomas showed up unannounced at Patricia's door. Patricia and I were having lunch in her sunny kitchen when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Thomas's silver SUV parked at the curb, and my entire body went rigid with fear. "It's him," I whispered, my appetite instantly gone. "Thomas found me." Patricia squeezed my hand. "You don't have to see him if you don't want to. I can send him away." But running and hiding wouldn't solve anything. With my friend beside me, I felt strong enough to face my son. "No, I need to do this. But would you stay with me?" Patricia nodded firmly. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. When we opened the door, Thomas looked simultaneously relieved and uncomfortable. His normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, with several days of stubble and dark circles under his eyes. "Mom," he breathed, stepping forward as if to embrace me. I stepped back, maintaining distance. "Thomas," I acknowledged coolly. "How did you find me?" "I called all your old friends after I found your note. Patricia was the most likely person you'd go to." His eyes pleaded for understanding. "Mom, we've been worried sick. Why did you leave in the middle of the night? You left the grandkids heartbroken." The audacity of his concern ignited my anger. Why did I leave? Perhaps because I overheard your wife saying you were going to lock me away the next day. Perhaps because I found evidence that Amanda was drugging me to make me appear incompetent. Perhaps because you were stealing from me, Thomas? His face paled. "Mom, you're confused. We were only trying to help." "Stop it," I interrupted, my voice stronger than it had been in months. "I'm not confused. I've been off those medications for 2 weeks now, and my mind is perfectly clear." I handed him a folder containing copies of the documentation my attorney had prepared, bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals, photos of the medication I'd found in Amanda's drawer, and my new medical evaluation, showing no signs of dementia or mental impairment. Thomas stared at the papers, his hands shaking. Mom, this isn't what it looks like. Then what is it, Thomas? Explain to me why your wife was giving me sedatives. Tell me why my money was disappearing. Explain why you were ready to put me in a memory care facility when there's nothing wrong with my memory. His shoulders slumped as the weight of evidence became undeniable. It wasn't my idea, he said quietly. Amanda said you needed help, that the money was just being moved to better investments for your future care. And the medications, the isolation from my friends, was that for my benefit too? When he couldn't answer, Patricia stepped forward. Thomas, I've known you since you were in diapers. I'm deeply disappointed in you. Your mother needs to know right now, are you here to make amends or to try to take her back? Thomas looked up, tears in his eyes. I don't know what to do. Amanda's furious. She's been calling lawyers saying Mom isn't competent to manage her affairs. She's threatening to fight for guardianship. Let her try, I said firmly. I have documentation of her drugging me or financial exploitation. Does she really want that made public? Does she want Adult Protective Services investigating your household while you have children in the home? The mention of his children seemed to break something in Thomas. He sank into a chair, face in his hands. I never meant for any of this to happen, he sobbed. Amanda kept saying you needed more care, that your money should be working for all of us. Since we were taking care of you, it started small, just moving some funds, giving you something to help you sleep when you seemed anxious. Then it kept escalating. His confession both validated my experience and broke my heart. My own son had participated in my abuse, however reluctantly. Are the children all right? I asked, my concern for my grandchildren overriding everything else. Thomas nodded. They miss you. They don't understand why you left. I left them notes, I said. Did they get them? No, Thomas admitted. Amanda found them first. Of course she had. The thought of my grandchildren believing I'd abandoned them without a word was almost more than I could bear. Over the next 2 hours, Thomas revealed the extent of Amanda's manipulation. Of me, of him, of our entire family situation. She had orchestrated everything, convincing Thomas that I was declining mentally while systematically isolating me and gaining access to my finances. I should have seen it, he admitted, but she always had an explanation that made sense in the moment. And I was working so much trying to keep up with the lifestyle she wanted. While his remorse seemed genuine, I couldn't simply forgive and forget. What happens now, Thomas? He looked up, his expression determined for the first time. I'm going to fix this. I've already spoken to a lawyer of my own. I'm going to make sure all your money is returned with interest. And Amanda and I, we need to reevaluate our relationship. The implication hung in the air. My son's marriage might not survive this betrayal, not just of me, but of his own values. As Thomas prepared to leave, I made one thing clear. I love you, but I don't trust you right now. If you want to rebuild our relationship, it will take time and actions, not just words. And I will not be returning to your home. He nodded, understanding the boundaries I was setting. Can I bring the kids to visit sometime? They really do miss you. Supervised visits only for now, I agreed, my heart aching at the necessity of such precautions with my own family. After Thomas left, Patricia and I sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Well, she finally said, reaching for my hand. That was the first step. Are you all right? I wasn't sure how to answer. The confrontation had been both vindicating and devastating. My son had admitted to participating in my abuse, however manipulated he had been himself. The road ahead would be complicated and painful. I finally answered. In the days that followed, Thomas's confession led to concrete actions. Amanda refused to cooperate, but Thomas himself returned the misappropriated funds. Adult Protective Services opened an investigation, and my attorney filed formal charges of elder abuse. The legal proceedings were difficult but necessary. 2 months after my escape, I had my first supervised visit with my grandchildren at a neutral location. a park near Patricia's house, with Patricia present the entire time. Lily and Jack were confused and hurt but relieved to see me healthy and safe. Dad said you were sick and needed special doctors, Lily confided. But you don't look sick, Grandma. I wasn't sick, sweetheart, I explained gently. Sometimes adults make mistakes and don't tell the truth. But I never wanted to leave you. I love you both very much. As spring turned to summer, I watched my son begin the difficult process of untangling his life from Amanda's. He entered therapy, filed for separation, and fought for custody of the children. Amanda continued to deny wrongdoing, but the evidence was overwhelming. Most importantly, I began rebuilding trust with my grandchildren. One supervised visit at a time. 6 months after my midnight escape, I stood in the center of my new apartment, hardly believing how much had changed. Located in a senior living community just 10 minutes from Patricia's home, my one-bedroom unit offered independence with community support, the perfect balance for this new chapter of my life. The walls were freshly painted in soft blue, my favorite color. A few pieces of furniture from my Portland home had been in storage and now created a familiar, comfortable space. Frank's desk, rescued from Thomas's garage, sat in the corner by the window, holding framed photos of happier times. Patricia arrived with a houseplant as my first housewarming gift. Perfect timing, she announced. You're unpacked just in time for Bridge Club tomorrow night. My friend had been instrumental in helping me rebuild a social life, introducing me to her circle of vibrant, active seniors. After months of isolation, the simple pleasure of conversation and laughter with peers felt like a luxury. Beyond socializing, I'd found purpose in volunteering at the local senior center 3 mornings a week. Working with the center's outreach program, I helped identify seniors at risk of exploitation or abuse. My personal experience proved valuable in recognizing warning signs others might miss. Mrs. Abernathy called again. Patricia mentioned referring to an elderly widow we'd been concerned about. Her son finally agreed to that family counseling session. Good. I nodded, remembering how the woman's situation had echoed my own. Sometimes, all it takes is someone paying attention before things escalate. My relationship with Thomas remained complicated, but was slowly healing. After filing for divorce from Amanda and gaining primary custody of the children, he'd committed to family therapy for all of us. Our sessions were often difficult, but necessary for rebuilding trust. Dad's really sorry, Lily had confided during a recent visit. At 13 now, she understood more than her younger brother. He cries sometimes when he thinks we're asleep. Healing takes time, sweetheart, I told her, for all of us. The legal proceedings against Amanda had concluded with a settlement that included full restitution of my finances and a restraining order preventing her from contacting me. While the outcome was satisfactory from a legal perspective, the emotional damage couldn't be so neatly resolved. Navigating holidays and family occasions required careful planning and clear boundaries. Thomas and the children had joined Patricia and me for Thanksgiving dinner the previous month, our first holiday together since my escape. The day had been tentatively joyful, with moments of both connection and lingering awkwardness. Patricia interrupted my reflection. Earth to Dora, I asked if you're still coming to the advocacy meeting tomorrow. Sorry, just wool gathering. I smiled. Yes, I'll be there. The advocacy group for family abuse survivors had become an unexpected source of strength and purpose. Sharing my story helped others recognize warning signs in their own situations, while hearing others' experiences reminded me I wasn't alone. The shame that had initially kept me silent had transformed into determination to help others. Good, because they specifically asked if you'd say a few words about financial exploitation. Your banker friend is bringing those brochures we discussed. I nodded, remembering how isolated I'd felt when I first discovered the unauthorized withdrawals from my accounts. Now I was helping create educational materials to help other seniors protect themselves. As evening approached, Patricia departed with promises to pick me up for tomorrow's meeting. Alone in my new home, I made a cup of tea and settled into the comfortable armchair by the window. The view wasn't spectacular, just the community garden and walking path. But it represented something precious: freedom. The journey hadn't been easy. Some days the pain of betrayal still cut deep. I missed the easy relationship I'd once had with my son before Amanda's manipulation poisoned our family. I grieved for the grandchildren who had witnessed family trauma no child should experience. Yet alongside the pain, unexpected gifts had emerged. My friendship with Patricia had deepened into something even more precious. New friendships brought laughter and support. The advocacy work gave purpose to my experience. Most surprisingly, I discovered strength I never knew I possessed. At 72, I'd fled in the night with nothing but a small bag and determination. I'd rebuilt my life from scratch, faced down legal battles, and created a new beginning. Frank would have been proud. I could almost hear him saying, "That's my Dora girl, tougher than she looks." The journey of healing wasn't complete. Perhaps it never would be entirely. Thomas was working hard to make amends, but trust once broken is rebuilt slowly in small increments of reliability and honesty. The grandchildren were resilient, but still processing their own confusion and pain. As for me, I was learning to balance forgiveness with necessary boundaries, compassion with self-protection. Each day brought new challenges in that delicate balance, but also new joys in my reclaimed independence. The sunset painted my new living room in golden light as I sipped my tea. From the depths of betrayal to this moment of peace, the path had been unimaginable when I slipped out of my son's house that terrifying night. Have you ever had to completely rebuild your trust in someone who betrayed you? Or have you had to start over when you least expected to? I never thought at 72 I would be starting a brand new chapter of my life, but here I am. If my story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more experiences from those of us who found strength we never knew we had. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself.